Okay. So today we're diving into something pretty wild.
Yeah.
President Trump has proposed that the U.S. just takes over Gaza,
Wow.
relocates all the Palestinians, all 2 million of them,
Oh, wow.
and then redevelops it into some kind of booming economic center.
Yeah.
He's even calling it, get this, the Riviera of the Middle East.
The Riviera.
We've got articles here from the New York Times, the Washington Post, and the Atlantic,
Oh, okay.
and all published just yesterday and today. So February 4th and 5th, 2025.
So this is brand new.
That's a bold idea.
Yeah, I mean, to say the least, it's certainly sparked some pretty intense reactions globally.
Yeah, to put it mildly, let's try and break down what we know from these articles.
Yeah.
So Trump's vision, involves the U.S. taking long-term ownership of Gaza.
Okay.
He says the 2 million Palestinian residents will be relocated to new homes funded by regional partners.
Okay.
Although he doesn't really mention which partners will be willing to do that. He seems incredibly confident, even comparing this whole redevelopment project to his past real estate ventures.
Yeah, the articles really highlight that he's framing this as a humanitarian effort and an economic opportunity.
Right.
But let's be realistic. This involves the forced displacement of an entire population. I mean, the implications are enormous, both legally and ethically.
No surprise, there's already pushback. So Palestinian officials have condemned the proposal, outright.
Right.
They're demanding the right to rebuild Gaza themselves.
Of course.
Saudi Arabia's foreign ministry has also rejected any infringement on Palestinian rights. And this follows a recent joint statement from Arab nations that specifically rejected the relocation of Gazatans to Egypt and Jordan.
So they're not on board with that?
No, not at all.
And the reaction, it's not just limited to the Middle East either. There's some serious concern from U.S. officials and analysts, too. Some question the legality of it, the feasibility of the plan, while others are just, deeply worried about the potential consequences.
And even some of Trump's usual allies are kind of hesitant about this. So Senator Lindsey Graham, for example, he said, I think most South Carolinians would probably not be excited about sending Americans to take over Gaza.
That's pretty telling.
Yeah, I mean, that's a pretty clear sign that this proposal is going to face a real uphill battle even within his own party.
Yeah, I mean, the potential for destabilization in the region is just enormous.
Right.
This could easily backfire and create even more tension and conflict.
Yeah.
Not to mention, the potential impact on the Israeli-Palestinian peace process, which is already pretty fragile.
Yeah, I mean, it really makes you wonder what's motivating this proposal. Is this a genuine attempt to solve the Gaza crisis, or is this something else?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? I think to answer it, we really need to look at the broader geopolitical landscape.
Okay, let's unpack that in the next part of our deep dive.
Okay.
We'll look at the historical context, the potential consequences,
Right.
and just try to understand, what this means for the Middle East, U.S. foreign policy, and for you, the listener.
So, to really understand, I guess, the potential ramifications of this proposal, we need to look at the historical context, Yeah. I mean, the U.S. has a long and complicated history in the Middle East.
Right.
Often with unintended and negative consequences.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, interventions like the Iraq War, which was based on faulty intelligence, right?
Exactly.
That led to years of instability, and it ultimately created more problems than it solved, really.
Yeah, I mean, and even well-intentioned efforts, like the rebuilding of Afghanistan, they faced enormous challenges and just ultimately fell short of their goals.
Yeah. So applying those lessons to this situation, it's understandable why so many are wary of Trump's plan.
Yeah.
The risks are huge.
Absolutely, and the potential for making things worse is very real.
Yeah.
One major concern that a lot of these articles bring up is the potential for further destabilization.
Right.
Forcibly removing the Palestinian population from Gaza. I mean, it could spark, widespread unrest, not just within the territory itself, but throughout the entire region.
And let's not forget about the potential backlash from the international community.
Oh, for sure.
Violating international law.
Yeah.
And just acting unilaterally, it could really damage the U.S.'s global standing and alienate like key allies.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the articles we've reviewed, they suggest this could provide like ammunition to Iran and other adversaries.
Right.
You know, it could potentially fuel that anti-American sentiment
Right.
and just further complicate the already volatile geopolitical landscape.
Yeah. Speaking of that geopolitical landscape, this proposal comes at a time of just heightened tensions.
Yeah.
We've got, Iran's growing influence, the collapse of several regional powers,
Right.
and of course, the ongoing Israeli-Palestinian conflict, which this proposal seems to just completely disregard.
Yeah, it's almost like this proposal was dropped out of thin air,
Right.
just ignoring the reality on the ground. One thing that's particularly concerning is the complete lack of detail about how any of this would actually be implemented.
Right. Relocating 2 million people.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a logistical nightmare.
It is.
Then there's the rebuilding of the territory itself.
Yeah.
Not to mention the massive financial costs. Who's going to pay for all of this?
Yeah, and even if you could somehow overcome the logistical and financial hurdles,
Right.
I mean, there's the human cost to consider, forcing people from their homes, even if they're offered new housing,
Yeah.
It creates trauma. It disrupts community, severs cultural ties.
Yeah, and the articles, they quote, Palestinian officials expressing outrage and despair at the thought of just being, uprooted from their land.
Mm.
Their voices deserve to be heard. This isn't just about policy. It's about the lives and futures of real people.
Absolutely. It really raises the question of what's truly motivating this proposal. Some analysts suggest that Trump is just desperate for a legacy-defining win in the Middle East, something he can, point to as a major foreign policy achievement.
He does have a history of making like bold, unconventional moves.
He does.
Often with little regard for precedent or consequences, honestly.
Right.
But is this really about solving the Gaza crisis? Or is it something more self-serving?
Yeah, it's important to consider the possibility that this is part of a larger strategy, an attempt to reshape the regional order to benefit Trump's own interests.
If that's the case, it's a dangerous gamble. It could easily backfire and create even more chaos and instability in the region.
Absolutely. I mean, this proposal has the potential to further alienate the Palestinians, make them even less likely to engage in any kind of peace process.
Yeah.
It could also embolden hardliners on both sides, further diminishing the prospects for a peaceful resolution to the conflict.
So where does this leave us? I mean, we've got a proposal that seems like completely detached from reality.
It does.
With the potential for disastrous consequences on multiple levels.
Yeah.
It raises serious questions about President Trump's judgment and his understanding of the complexities of the Middle East.
And yet here we are, the President of the United States is seriously considering a plan that could have far-reaching global implications.
Right.
It's a reminder that we can't afford to be complacent.
Yeah. We'll delve deeper into the potential global ramifications of this proposal in the final part of our deep dive. Okay, so we've talked about the potential consequences in the Middle East, but what about the impact on the U.S. itself? Like, is this really in America's best interest?
Yeah, that's a question that deserves some serious consideration. This proposal, it's a pretty radical departure from, decades of U.S. foreign policy.
Right.
And not just in the Middle East.
Yeah, I mean, it seems to contradict like Trump's own, earlier rhetoric about avoiding foreign entanglements. Remember, America first.
Right, exactly.
Didn't he promise to like pull the U.S. out of these kinds of, messy situations?
He did. I mean, during his first campaign, he vowed to reduce American involvement overseas, not plunge the country deeper into one of the world's, most intractable conflicts.
So what's changed? Why this sudden shift?
Well, some analysts are speculating that winning a second term has kind of emboldened him. Perhaps he feels, less constrained by conventional wisdom.
Right.
And more willing to kind of take risks, even if those risks involve, potentially disastrous consequences.
It's almost as if he's saying, I won, I can do whatever I want, regardless of the potential cost to American lives and the country's global standing.
It is a worrying thought, but I think there's something even more fundamental at play here. I believe this proposal, it reflects a profound shift in how Trump views the world and America's role in it.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Like, unpack that for us.
Okay, so think back to his America First rhetoric. During his first term, that often translated into a more isolationist approach,
Yeah.
withdrawing from international agreements, imposing tariffs, and generally just kind of disengaging from global affairs. But this Gaza proposal, it suggests a different kind of America First, one where the U.S. asserts its dominance not by withdrawing, but by actively like reshaping the world in its own image.
So it's not about isolationism anymore. It's about like projecting power, imposing like American will, regardless of the consequences or the wishes of those affected.
Exactly. And this isn't, an isolated incident. I mean, look at some of his other, recent pronouncements talking about buying Greenland, annexing Canada, reclaiming the Panama Canal, even renaming the Gulf of Mexico. I mean, it paints a pretty disturbing picture.
It's like he sees the world as his personal monopoly board,
Yeah.
and he's not afraid to flip the table if he doesn't get his way.
Yeah, it's a dangerous and reckless way to approach global affairs. And the implications, they extend far beyond the Middle East. This kind of unilateral action, this disregard for international law and norms, it could have a ripple effect across the globe,
Right.
undermining America's credibility, alienating its allies.
Yeah, it's a sobering thought. And it brings us back to the listener. What does this all mean for you? How should you, as a global citizen, process this information and respond to this potential shift in the global landscape?
That's the key question, isn't it? I mean, we can't just sit back and watch as these events unfold. We need to be, informed, engaged, and willing to speak out against, policies we believe are harmful and unjust.
Right. I mean, this is a time for critical thinking, for questioning assumptions, for demanding accountability from our leaders.
Absolutely. Remember, your voice matters.
Yeah.
By educating yourself, engaging in thoughtful discussions and advocating for a more just and peaceful world, you can contribute to shaping a better future.
Well, that's a powerful message to end on. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into President Trump's, audacious and troubling proposal.
It's been a pleasure.
Stay informed, stay engaged, and keep those critical thinking skills sharp. Until next time.